Welcome everyone. I think all the delegates are very eagerly waiting for this discussion because no matter what we do, end of the day, we have to work within a policy and a framework. And it is the gentlemen who are on the stage who decide the laws. They are the lawmakers, they are the decision makers who govern our lives. And we thought of putting up this very special panel because we talk about a lot of things. Where will we be in 10 years? Where are we going to be in 20 years? But I think this multi-party, multi-dimensional panel, I think the laws about education and what is going to happen in India are actually going to be shaped by the views of the young parliamentarians and ministers of state that we have on the panel. So, therefore, very special panel. I'd like to start in no particular order, so I'm going to go left to right. And you heard General V.K. Singh, and I put forward some of the challenges of education in front of all of you. And based on your experience, could you share what you feel about the opportunities and challenges in the education sector over the next 5 or 10 years? So maybe 3 or 4 minutes of your views, and then I'll do a quick question and answer session. Maybe start with you, Mr. Kalikesh.
Thank you. General V.K. Singh spoke really well, firstly. I think it was a very, very insightful and inspiring comment that he made. And he's absolutely right. There are two very diverse spectrum of platforms of providing education in our country. We have the public school platform, which is excellent. We make some of the best minds, nurture some of the best minds in the world, which come out of India. A lot of them from the public school platform. I think that's comparable to any other place in the world. Then there is the government sector. And some of our best minds come from those schools too, irrespective of the challenges that they face. But the fact is, and this is by no means a reflection on Jitin, who was the HRD minister for 2 years, but the fact is, Minister of State, the fact is that a large number of students who are involved in the government educational system fail to meet the quality that's required. There was a report recently which published that almost 25 to 30% of the children in the government schools in class 3 couldn't recognize their names in English, couldn't sign their names. Almost 35% of the kids in class 2 and class 3 couldn't do simple subtraction and addition. There is a problem of quality that we have in the government sector, and that's primarily driven out of our policies. When we in Parliament, irrespective of whichever government comes to fore, whether it's in the state or Parliament, when we in Parliament discuss education and discuss the accomplishments, they will talk about the number of teachers they've hired. They will talk about the number of classrooms they've built. But there will be no barometer to gauge the quality of education that the government actually provides. So I think we need to move from a quantum-driven approach to a qualitative approach. There are other issues which will come about. There's a degree of sensitivity that we need to share. We know that there are specially abled children who, because of their condition, cannot have access to basic education in many places, many rural areas, many villages. We know that there are children who have special education needs, who may not be able to cope with the traditional method of teaching that exists in India. If you don't cater to them, you're depriving them of achieving their full potential. And I think it's time that our educational system becomes sensitive, becomes more focused, and becomes more flexible to bring about not just a system of rote, or ratta and learning and reproducing, but a system which nurtures the mind to think independently, a system which can actually allow the child to have the confidence to raise questions without being reprimanded, to think out of the box and sometimes even question the premises that the teacher is attempting to instill in you. I think that's what is going to create an independent mind, a thinking mind, a mind which can actually contribute to the betterment of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kalikesh ji. Nitin ji, can we have your views, please?
Thank you, Shantanu. You just heard and got enlightened by Kalikesh, and I think he should take over as the MOS HRD in this government, because he has the vision scripted out. But my colleagues and member parliaments who are here and the stakeholders in front of me, I'm glad we are here, thanks to Shantanu and Educom, and deliberating on the education way forward. And I've had the opportunity of a brief stint with the HRD ministry as a Minister of State. And I've been on both sides, where we were forming regulations and policies for education. And as a student and as a person, as a citizen, I've seen the way education is going in India. And I can tell you it's a very big challenge. And the approach was to get everybody on board and then come out with a policy and framework for the way forward. Because as Shantanu just said in his remarks, that it's an emergency the way the education system is going. And we're churning out people, students with degrees, and there's no employability, and there's no quality, and it will lead to a catastrophe. But that's the challenge with the government, where we can't move and take steps from emergency to emergency, like we are going to do in with the odd even numbers of city pollution. That might be one of the emergency solutions, but we should have planned better. And that's what we need to do now, and discuss and plan, so that future generations in the next 30 years stand to benefit. We can't move from emergency to emergency. And you all know, because you've been are in the education sector, that India is still grappling with a lot of divides in terms of education. And the first challenge with the government was, at that point of time, in 2004, I can talk about that, and I don't know much about what happened before, was access to education. People didn't have a school to go to. So that's when the policies of that UPA government, we came out with the right to education, which is highly debatable, and you will have a lot of questions on that. I know that. But that's the only way forward. You have to do something to move ahead. And everybody doesn't have absolutely the right prescription to move ahead. So access was one priority, where you ensured that every kilometer, village within every, there has to be a school. And then we start talking about quality, that the right education, the right teacher, the right curriculum, the right content, that has to go down, because it's a very sensitive issue. The child's brain is like a sponge. What you put in his mind remains for the rest of his life, and you can't afford to play with it. It's very sensitive, and you have to ensure that the right values, quality and education above any agenda goes to that mind, so that our future generations stand to gain and our country gains. So there are a lot of issues, from quality to, I've also seen employability to, I'm sure they'll be discussed, where people are going around with degrees in their hand but no jobs. So we're looking at skill training, and then when you come up with skill training, you have to have the right quality and the right amount of skill which will guarantee them a job. What use of education when they can't earn their bread and butter? So you got to get practical. You can't only be on theory. And then of course, why we are here, Educam, the smart classes. Not only that, but I'm serious about that, and I'll say that technology will play a great role in bridging the divide, and that's how you're going to be reaching out to those people who don't have access to quality education, who don't have access to good teachers. And I salute the teachers and principals who are here, because they're the ones who shape our lives. And every student and every child in this world, there will not be one who will not remember his teacher in school and what he stood for. And you people are the ones who actually decide which way the country goes. We just make the policies in parliament and debate and fight it out. But a teacher is the one who builds the nation, because he gets to that mind which will be the future of this country. And that's what is very important. And I don't know if I have stretched my 4-minute limit, but you have to tell us, because we are politicians and we can go on for hours and hours. So with that, I'll hand over to Anurag.
Good morning, everyone. I think first of all, we need to understand the difference between imparting literacy and imparting education. And I sincerely feel the governments are still under the influence of National Literacy Mission. And despite getting fancy degrees, as per the industry standard, 70% of the youth is still unemployed or unemployable. So that means along with the education, we need to enhance their skills to make them employable. To me, if you ask me what education means to me, at least for any youth or for any student, what education should deliver is either to make him to earn or invent. या रोजगार हो, स्वरोजगार हो, कारोबार हो या आविष्कार हो, इस लायक उसको बनाया जाए कि कुछ ना कुछ करने के लायक हो. But if you look at the secondary education as well as the primary education, we have failed as far as the secondary education is concerned. If despite getting degrees, 70% of them are not employable, we need to seriously think about that. Shall we have a dual education system like Germany had, which is successful for more than 100 years? If that is successful, we must learn from that and start something from class 9, not what Mr. Sibal thought in the previous government. So he's from the Harvard School, am I right? Okay. Because he focused on, when initially CBSE came out with nobody should fail till class 5, then there should not be an exam till class 8, then it was extended till class 10. So basically the focus was, don't make them fail in class, let them fail in life. On the other hand, you talk about give them stress-free education. That is what we are looking at, stress-free education, but give them a stressed life? I think we need to be very clear what kind of education system we need to have. Anyone going till class 10 doesn't understand, or what Kalikesh has said, maybe class 5 student doesn't know how to clear the class 2 exams. That is a challenge what we face in the state of Uttar Pradesh and other states as well. Not focusing on you, but in most of the states. Despite, I come from a hilly state called Himachal Pradesh, and we face the challenge of having schools in remote areas in hilly terrain and all that. Despite that, Himachal has done well in the primary education. I think it depends on the state governments as well, how much you invest into the education. But in many states we have seen that even the job of teacher is outsourced. If you're being paid 35,000 rupees, you outsource it for 5,000 rupees. Someone else comes on your behalf and teach the students. This is the challenge what governments face. I think this is very important to look at these areas. As far as dual education is concerned, I'm very, very concerned about it, and skill is very important factor today. Vocational training is very important, and I think our government has a focus on that. I am not speaking on the behalf of government. These are my personal comments or experience from the last 5-7 years as I'm working at the grassroots level. But I still personally feel, rather than giving just the stress-free education, we should not force them for a stressed life. We should try and bring the changes required, and no government should shy away from bringing in those changes, especially training the teachers. Teachers training is very, very important today. I personally feel in most of the states we have seen the government has started hiring teachers who are just passed out from class 12th. Even graduated or the postgraduate teachers or the students who have just passed out and looking for jobs, they are unable to write a simple application, which raises a big question mark. Whether they have just got degrees or they have the comprehensive education. I won't take much time. Thank you, Shantanu, for inviting us here. Thank you.
नमस्कार, मैं हमारे साथी कलिकेश जी, जितिन जी, अनुराग जी, चौटाला जी, आसिफ साहब, शांतनु जी, सबसे पहले मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा जो मंच पे बैठे हैं और यहाँ जो लोग हैं वो थोड़े प्रिविलेज्ड क्लास है। आप देखेंगे जो गांव में जो हमें आज शिक्षा मिल रही है, जो लोगों का है, मेरा तो ये मानना है कि आजादी के बाद हम लोग ने शिक्षा पे ध्यान दिया ही नहीं। जिस तरह से हम लोग को काम करना चाहिए था, शिक्षा और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हमने देखा ही नहीं। और मेरा ये कहना है कि दोहरी शिक्षा नीति चली देश में, जैसे कि गांव के लोगों को जो शिक्षा मिली और जो शहरों में जो आप शिक्षा दे रहे हैं वो हम लोग जैसे कुछ प्रिविलेज लोगों को मिल रही है। गांव में जो 90% बच्चे पढ़ रहे हैं आज इस विद्यालय में इसलिए जा रहे हैं क्योंकि उनको भोजन मिल रहा है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ऑर्डर था कि आपको मिड डे मील देना है, तो वहां पे बच्चे जा रहे हैं। हम लोग ने तो शिक्षा पे ध्यान ही नहीं दिया। आज भी जीडीपी का मेरे ख्याल से 3.1 और 3.2 वो भी कम हो गया। पहले 3.9 था, उसको 3.2 कर दिया। शिक्षा पे हम लोग दे रहे हैं। तो हम लोग की नीति ऐसी रही है, कहां देश 15% दे रहे हैं और हम लोग उसको भी कम करते जा रहे हैं। मेरा ये मानना है अटल जी ने सर्व शिक्षा अभियान शुरू किया था और बहुत अच्छा कार्यक्रम था, उससे बहुत अच्छे विद्यालय बने। आज जहां हम लोग को 5 किलोमीटर में विद्यालय था, 1 किलोमीटर में विद्यालय है, लेकिन कैसी शिक्षा मिल रही है वहां पे? टीचर है नहीं। अनुराग जी की मैं बात से बिल्कुल इत्तेफाक रखता हूं कि टीचर्स को हम लोग को एजुकेट करने की जरूरत है। सबसे पहले आप लोग कितने लोग अगर किसी गांव में जाकर विद्यालय में जाएंगे तो टीचर अपना नाम नहीं लिख सकते हैं। वो तो आप छोड़िए कि बच्चे लिख पाते हैं कि नहीं, टीचर्स अपना नाम नहीं लिख पाएंगे। तो हम लोग को ये सोचना होगा पहले कि हम लोग किस दिशा में जा रहे हैं। एजुकेशन पॉलिसी मैं फिर सुन रहा हूं कि पहले इंदिरा जी के टाइम में एक एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई, फिर राजीव जी के टाइम में आई, अब मोदी जी एक और नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी ला रहे हैं। हम लोग तो आशावादी लोग हैं। हम लोग चाहेंगे कि ऐसी एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आए जिससे बच्चा आगे बढ़े, जिसको सोचने की स्वतंत्रता हो। सबसे बड़ा बात है, जब तक दिमाग नहीं खुला होगा तो शिक्षा का कोई फायदा नहीं। मेरा ये आजकल मैं फिर दो चीज जैसा बोला, मैं आजकल बहुत सुन रहा हूं कि स्किल लेबर, हम लोग को चाहिए कि शिक्षा को छोड़कर स्किल 12वीं के बाद ऐसे ITI जो खुल रहे हैं उसमें उसकी जरूरत है। हम लोग को दोनों की जरूरत है, नॉलेज की भी और स्किल लेबर की भी। क्योंकि हम सभी लोग गए, मेरे ख्याल से येल गए थे हम लोग। 7 दिन का एक कोर्स होता है। कई लोग उसको डिग्री भी मान लेते हैं, लेकिन वो डिग्री नहीं है। 7 दिन का एक कोर्स था जिसमें हमें ये बताया गया कि आप लोग PhD पे ध्यान ही नहीं देते, रिसर्च पे कोई ध्यान ही नहीं देते हैं। और रिसर्च पे तो इस सरकार ने और कम कर दिया। मुझे दुख के साथ कह रहे हैं, अनुराग जी बुरा मत मानिएगा, रिसर्च पे हम लोग और कम करते जा रहे हैं, जबकि और उस पे PhD पे। और यहां से जो कुछ इंस्टीट्यूट जो हमारे अच्छे इंस्टीट्यूट है, वहां से पढ़ लिख के जब बाहर जाते हैं लोग तो वहीं रह जाते हैं, क्योंकि जब रिसर्च करते हैं तो उनको लगता है यहां पे हम ज्यादा काम कर सकते हैं। उनकी गलती नहीं है, यहां पे हम लोग दे नहीं पा रहे। तो नॉलेज भी हम लोग के लिए जरूरी है, स्किल लेबर नहीं, नॉलेज भी। इंडिया हमारा देश जो है, हमेशा आविष्कार कुछ नहीं हुआ पिछले 60 सालों में। बताएं कोई आविष्कार हम लोग ने किया? लोग हमेशा पूछते हैं, हम जब भी बाहर जाते हैं, ऑक्सफोर्ड गए, येल गए, हमसे पूछते हैं आपने क्या आविष्कार किया है? आप तो कॉपी कर रहे हैं। हम लोग को आगे बढ़ना है। तो मेरा यही कहना है कि स्किल के साथ नॉलेज भी जरूरी है, और वो तभी बढ़ेगा जब नई शिक्षा नीति आ रही है। मैं चाहूंगा कि सबसे बड़ी जो हम लोग के टीचर्स की है, उत्तर प्रदेश में सच में टीचर्स की, इसीलिए हम लोग ने शिक्षा मित्रों को टीचर बनाना पड़ रहा है। ये स्थिति आ गई है, ये हम लोग की आवश्यकता है, इसलिए हम लोग कर रहे हैं। मैं यही कहना चाहूंगा, समय नहीं लूंगा। सही बोला सबने, हम लोग यहाँ तो चेयरमैन और स्पीकर रहते हैं हम लोग को बैठाने के लिए। आप जब तक नहीं बोलेंगे तो मैं बोलता रहूंगा। मैं फिर से शांतनु जी का आभार व्यक्त करता हूं कि आप लोग ने हम लोग को यहाँ बुलाया कि हम अपनी बात कह सकें। मुझे पूरा भरोसा है और मुझे पता है हमारे जो नौजवान हैं उनमें इच्छा शक्ति है पढ़ने की भी और आगे बढ़ने की भी, लेकिन उसको हम लोग को जो अभी वर्तमान में लोग नीतियां बना रहे हैं उनको देखना होगा कि अच्छी नीति बने जिससे एक शिक्षित भारत उभर के निकले। धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Shantanu. When we are talking about education, I think all my colleagues and seniors, I can say, spoke on a wider aspect ki where should our education go. In a country that is populated and which has a population of approximately 50 plus crore below the age of 25, where education has to be a critical part, we are selling education. We are not giving education, we are selling it. And I still remember my great-grandfather Chaudhary Devilal ji said, हमारा टाइम भला था जब शिक्षा और चिकित्सा मुफ्त में मिलती थी और उतनी अच्छी थी। और आज I think it's one of the costliest thing. The more you pay, the better you say. But when we start comparing, I've been to Sinar, I think most of our colleagues here have been to very good schools. But do people in good school go to good institutions? How many people of good boarding schools or good residential schools or good day boarding schools go to institutions like IITs or IIMs? वहाँ वही जाता है जो मेहनत कर सकता है। और वो मेहनत कहाँ होती है? जहाँ पर हमें वो अच्छे टीचर्स मिलते हैं जो अपने स्टूडेंट्स के अंदर कुछ ना कुछ ऐसा डालकर भेजते हैं कि उनका एक एम बन जाता है, वी हैव टू रीच दैट गोल। जिस तरह अभी मेरे से पूर्व नीरज जी कह रहे थे शिक्षा मित्र, इन हरियाणा वी हैव समथिंग कॉल्ड गेस्ट टीचर। सो व्हेन वी स्टार्ट हैविंग टीचर्स एज गेस्ट इन आवर स्कूल्स, where will we succeed? As you started off saying, we need 6 lakh teachers. 6 lakh is as of today. Next 20 years, I think our population will grow by another 30 crores or so. We will need so many more teachers to come in. आज जहाँ एजुकेशन की बात करते हैं, एजुकेशन इज नॉट ओनली टीचिंग मैथ्स। आई थिंक एज कलिकेश सेड कि आज 50% बच्चे 5th में ऐसे होंगे who will not know the division of class 2 also. Are we teaching that to our system? Singapore done has a very good job. They have institutions like ITE, जहाँ 8th के बाद बच्चों को they teach them skills and let them go in that field. And I think once we start doing that, India will succeed off the path, not keeping education in terms of reading books and clearing your exams, but getting that high-end skill in you that you will succeed in that field. I just want to say that I think everybody here is from a good institution or a good school, being the trustees and principal. I think your focus should be embedding the skill in the children, not forcing education onto them. The curriculum that has to be made, it's not only education, sports has to be a part of it. I think building skills like hobbies as carpentry or any other music or anything, that has to be a hobby. And once we start doing it, India will succeed. And I think we are a very young country. We need more innovation, more ideas to come into our education system. And when we start talking about the education policy, every state has its own boards. And we have faced it. I have seen Haryana in that aspect, that students don't even get books for about six months when their course starts. Are we going on that path? Ki we have to finish off on course in 6 months. So we have to divide it. I think Delhi started off with the quarter system in Delhi University. That was a good idea. Why don't we get similar ideas coming into our education system? And once we get those ideas, I think we'll succeed. And all our colleagues here and trustees and principals in front, we have to brainstorm. And once we start brainstorming, new ideas will generate. And I think the future India will be depending on us here as well as the people at the lower level. And I think to succeed, we have to pay better focus on our government institutions, government schools at a lower level at the village level. Thank you.
you so much. That was wonderful to hear very diverse views from all of you. But I think all of you agree that the common theme is that there needs to be a change. I think the big issue is that for the past decade we know there has to be a change. But the question is, how are we going to go about it, and who will catalyze that change? So, Kalikesh ji, I have a very specific question for you. You had the opportunity of, as we discussed in the panel, the privileged schooling. You went to Doon School, you went to St. Stephen's College. Today we see that youngsters coming out from these institutions, they are choosing a very different stream for themselves, rather than being associated with the Indian, local mainstream. For example, they are the first ones to go abroad. Very few of them actually come back to India to serve the country. General V.K. Singh spoke about how do we get that spirit of Desh Bhakti and service to our nation. So do you feel, and most of the trustees and principals here are all from public schools, so do you think that we need to inculcate something else, or are we missing something in our so-called public school system or privilege system, where we are losing the heart and the minds of our young people, and maybe overexposing them to the so-called global culture? What are views? I know it's a difficult subject, but what do you think we should be doing about it?
That's a very interesting question. 5 of us are from privileged institutes. We are all sitting in front of you thinking that we are serving the nation in our own way. Maybe that means we're not the brightest minds in our institutes, but we are here. I think a large number of people actually would prefer to be in India and be in their home environment and be in a position to try and serve within their confines. Their families are here, they're used to the systems, but the fact is that opportunities are maybe better outside. And that's a fact. Whether it's an educational system, I know in my time when I was applying for college, it was extremely difficult to get into St. Stephen's. They had, there was a religious quota which came on that year, so 50% of the seats went to the Christians, and 27% was reserved for the other sections. So we had, I think, about 100 seats between 10,000 applicants. So I know a lot of my friends who didn't get into Stephen's or Shri Ram or other colleges in Delhi or wherever they wanted to go to, then went abroad.
So it's a quality and capacity issue.
It's why would they want to be in an institution which they believe is not the best for them, rather than go abroad or not go abroad? Secondly, in a job environment, we find that a lot of people are coming back now. They're thinking of coming back. The action, as they say, has moved from the Western worlds to India. As both the Congress and the BJP will let you know that it's their doing. But the fact is the economy is picking up. It depends upon this country and how we position and create opportunities for students, whether be it in academia, be it in the employment arena. I don't think you can force anybody, whether it's in a private school or a public school or a boarding school, it doesn't matter. Individuals will seek the best opportunities for themselves. And it is incumbent not upon the schools. You can't instill a sense of patriotism or nationalism and say stay here at 50% of the salary or at in a substandard institute. We have to create good institutes, more good institutes, so that they stay on. We have to create more job opportunities which are at par. Even at 80% of the opportunities of or money availability outside the country, I'm sure people would prefer to be in their own country and prefer to be with their own families. It's incumbent upon the government, it's incumbent upon us as a society.
Thank you, Kalikesh ji. So we have to wait for India to grow. I think that's a wonderful answer. Jitin, I have a very special question for you. And that is, in the last government that you were in the Ministry of Education and Minister of State there, the world's largest PPP program, that is the Right to Education Act, was started with very ambitious goals of social engineering, 25% quota in private schools being reserved. But a few years down the line, I think the results are patchy at best. There are two very opposite views. Clearly, from a social inclusion prospect, it was a wonderful and a big leap forward. But in terms of implementation, a lot to be desired. Do you think in our country we make good policies, we have good intentions, but it finally fails when it comes to actually implementing things. Do you think we need to do something differently at the grassroots level so that some of these really big projects can actually take off?
You know, when the RT came about, it had been deliberated for about 10 years, a lot of expert views, and I'm sure conclaves such as this, where ideas had been generated and thrown up, were incorporated. But the whole intention at that point of the government was, like you said, of inclusive education. You can't have a society where only the cream and the privileged get education, and quality education and the rest get left behind. A nation cannot prosper if there's no equality and you don't give that kind of access and quality of education to the last mile. And it is the responsibility of every government. And that's where this EWS and other schemes of the government came about, where funds were thrown in to get schools and colleges in the rural hinterland and schools and colleges of principals who are sitting here, where it is our responsibility to ensure that the underprivileged do also get the same quality of education. And that's what the intention was. Some areas it's been successful, some areas I hear there's a lot of complaints and it's not, but that doesn't mean that you stop midway and stop trying and stop experimenting. The call is, when an act comes into being, it has been thoroughly debated. Everybody here sitting, I'm not in Parliament anymore, but has pressed that button to ensure that the RT came about and became an act. And so things don't just happen overnight. A lot of thinking does go about it, on it. And I think unless some more, like you said, technology here is one thing, ICT is one way, where distance learning is the other way, where we would be able to reach out to those people who don't have access to quality education. So ideas have to come about, views have to be deliberated and debated, and solutions have to come about. And it cannot be emergency to emergency, like I said. It has to be planned and for the future. So let's see how it plays out further. And of course, education being on the concurrent list. So it's not only a central government decision. It might be an act of parliament, but the implementation goes down to the states. And if the states choose to decide as to how they want to take it forward, and if they don't want to implement it, you see results and see situations such as in Delhi, the way things are happening, where a lot of clampdown and I think unnecessary regulation is happening on schools and principals, and so that also is a problem. So you can't say that one line and make sure it reaches the ground. So it's a lot of coalition required. Let's see how it goes.
Thank you, Jitin. Anurag, since you are, with the ruling part of the government, the ruling party right now, one of the things that's clearly coming out, as Kalikesh said, is that, look, why don't we create more high quality institutions in India so that the situation where 10,000 applicants to a St. Stephen's and very few seats, we hear about it but we don't actually do anything about it. And India is one of the few countries in the world that does not allow foreign institutions to come here. Rather, we prefer to send our students abroad for education, which is clearly, there is an issue there and a lot of precious resources go there. So one aspect, one question is, the first question would be, as a government, would you be open-minded, and what are your personal views on saying that why don't we create the Oxford and the Cambridge and the Yale in India when we have foreign collaborations and all the other aspects of Indian economy and so on? So do you think that's a way for us to go to create capacity in our country?
First of all, let me clear that it's going to be my personal opinion. I think ban and restriction doesn't help you anywhere. If you look at the telecom market, when we had BSNL, most of the people used to pay a bribe to get a telephone connection. But post 1994, I think you have more than 800 million connections in this country of mobile telephones. Not single operator, but multi-operators has helped you to grow. Competition makes you grow. And I think it also brings in a lot of quality. though there may be a debate today whether there is a lot of call drops and all that, that situation we still face. Despite getting a lot of foreign institutes or educational houses coming and investing in India, you may still face the same problem. But I think if thousands of Indians go abroad to study, which has an impact on your revenue as well, whereas India can become a global hub for education, I think we should look at education from that angle, not only to cater to the Indian market, but also should be a hub for the globe. Personally, I think like that. But at the same time, when you get a lot of representation from the Indian educationists or the people who are involved, invested heavily into education, they will always come with their set of problems and try and, speak not in favor of that. So that is also a big question mark. But I personally feel, as far as the education is concerned, today with the help of technology, technology can play a very, very important role. Today, young people like Mr. Bagati, who has made an application being in class 11th, look at the youngsters, they have got great mind. They're coming out with application which could be useful in a remote area. On a mobile phone, you can learn what you can't, learn in a city. What you can learn in a city, you can learn that in a remote village as well. So I think with the help of technology, with the help of e-learning, digital classrooms, that can play a very, very important role. And I think our government is focusing on Digital India campaign. With the help of improved telecom infrastructure, we will be able to deliver in a couple of years' time at the grassroots level. And I think a company like yours can play a very important role in that.
Thank you so much, Anurag. I have a quick, follow-on question for you. I think one of the challenges that all educators face today is, in fact, one of the things is because of technology. Because of technology, the students' knowledge about the subjects and the wide variety of information that they are able to get from Google and YouTube sometimes exceeds the knowledge that the teacher has in the classroom. So the teachers also have a big challenge that they feel that somewhere they are also becoming irrelevant in the system. So what do you think we should do? Should we make our system very flexible? So today if I am in class 12th, I have a very limited choice of subjects that I can take. But a youngster like Arhan Bagati, he may want to do a specialized course on web development. Now that is not available in the school that he goes to. So I think we probably need to completely unshackle the education system to let good ideas flow from every side. But that requires a very bold regulatory move. What are your personal views on this topic?
My personal views are, maybe in class 9th, the student must opt for the skills they want to adopt. For example, after class 8th, I feel like that I can't reach anywhere if I even take a graduation. I become a graduate. I can think of becoming a mechanic or an electrician, plumber or whatever it may be. But then there should be a window sometime in my life that after 4 years, 5 years of my experience, if I want to go and have a diploma or a degree, that opportunity should be there for me. As far as the student is concerned to have a web course or something else, I think those opportunities should be made available. But at the same time, if you look at the education system, today we see parents, like they say that the kids are overstressed with education. But I earlier touched upon that. Don't give them stress-free education, give them stress-free life. So give them those opportunities. If you really want to make it a knowledge-based economy, you need to do that.
Very, very interesting point. Thank you. Neeraj, the Samajwadi Party government actually had taken the lead in India when they distributed laptops to students. And that was I would say, a very bold move, and a lot of states followed after that. But in a large state like Uttar Pradesh, the dichotomy is that you may distribute laptops to a few, and they may become the so-called empowered children. But simultaneously, there are, literally lakhs of schools where we don't even have a teacher. We don't even have a proper toilet facility. So these two worlds of India, I think, how do we navigate these two worlds? Where we have to give very high quality education, laptop, internet, high quality teachers to develop the next generation of global leaders. Simultaneously, we have people at the bottom of the pyramid who are absolutely, zero level, when very limited resources we have. So how do you think, as a policy maker, as a parliamentarian, how should we think about these challenges?
सही आपका सवाल है, लेकिन आपके सवाल के पहले मैं एक बात कहना चाहूंगा। जो आपने कहा ना कि समस्याएं हैं, जैसे हम नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी बना रहे हैं, लेकिन मेरे को तो समस्या अभी एडमिशन में लगती है। आज फिर न्यूज़पेपर में पढ़ रहा था कि नर्सरी एडमिशन के लिए फिर कुछ रूल चेंज हो रहा है। आज हम नर्सरी एडमिशन के लिए रूल नहीं बना पाए तो नई एजुकेशन पॉलिसी क्या बनाएंगे? मैं हर साल मेरी एक बेटी एक क्लास, बड़ी वाली बेटी एक क्लास, उसको 7th में होना चाहिए, वो 6th में है। छोटी वाली को 4th में होना चाहिए, वो 3rd में है। हम लोग कुछ चीजें कर नहीं पा रहे हैं, लेकिन हमारे मुख्यमंत्री जी का एक विजन था। वो पहले लोकसभा में थे हम लोग के साथ, और कई बार हम लोग सेंट्रल हॉल में, क्योंकि आप जानते हैं ये लोकसभा और राज्यसभा की हिंदी चलती है, तो हम लोग सेंट्रल हॉल में बैठे थे। ये चुनाव के पहले की बात थी, 2012 के चुनाव के पहले लोग जो हुए वहां पे विधानसभा के चुनाव, तो मुख्यमंत्री जी कह रहे थे कि मुझे अपने यूथ के लिए कुछ करना है, कुछ ऐसा करें कि वो आने वाले समय में उस चीज से आगे बढ़ सके। तो ये एक छोटा सा प्रयास था, ये नहीं कि लैपटॉप देना हम लोग का था कि उससे यूथ हम लोग के साथ हो जाएगा। इसलिए हमने दिया कि क्योंकि हम लोग इस समस्या को समझते हैं, आप समझेंगे, क्योंकि जो लड़का बलिया के एक रिमोट गांव में पढ़ रहा है, उसको आप सही कह रहे हैं, उसके यहाँ टॉयलेट नहीं है और बिजली नहीं है, तो उसको लैपटॉप देने की क्या आवश्यकता है? क्यों? इसलिए आवश्यकता है क्योंकि जब वो नौकरी ढूंढने आता है दिल्ली में या बंबई में या कलकत्ता में, किसी शहर में जाता है, तो सबसे बड़ी समस्या उसको यही है। सबसे रेज्यूमे में अगर देखा जाएगा कि आपने कंप्यूटर है ही नहीं, तो आपको वैसी नौकरी नहीं मिलती। क्योंकि हम लोग ये समस्या हम लोग किसी के यहाँ भेजते हैं, तो कहते हैं सर इसने तो कुछ पढ़ाई लिखाई नहीं है। अगर उसने सब कुछ किया होगा तब भी अगर वो कंप्यूटर एजुकेटेड नहीं है तो वो जीरो है। तो इसलिए माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी, और छोटा मोटा नहीं है, 19 लाख बच्चों को हम लोग ने दिया है, और ये चल रहा है, ये प्रोसेस है। 12th में हम लोग लैपटॉप बच्चों को अभी भी दे रहे हैं। ये हम लोग का एम्बिशन है कि हर एक, आज किसी भी रिमोट विलेज में चले जाएंगे आप यूपी के, हर विलेज में 3 या 4 कम से कम लैपटॉप आपको मिलेंगे। ये इसलिए क्योंकि आज ये आवश्यकता है। जैसे मोबाइल फोन के बिना हम लोग नहीं रह सकते। आने वाले समय क्या समय आ गया है कि लैपटॉप जरूरत है, इसलिए हम लोग दे रहे हैं। और आपकी बात सही है, टॉयलेट्स बन रहे हैं। प्रधानमंत्री जी का सपना है कि हर विद्यालय में, क्योंकि सबसे बड़ा ड्रॉप आउट गर्ल चाइल्ड का इसीलिए होता है क्योंकि टॉयलेट्स नहीं है। माध्यमिक प्राइमरी एजुकेशन होता है, मिडिल स्कूल में नहीं जाती, वो हम लोग बना रहे हैं। और लेकिन दुख के साथ ये कहना पड़ता है कि सर्व शिक्षा अभियान का बजट कम किया जा रहा है, स्टेट्स को नहीं दिया जा रहा है, तो उससे इसमें थोड़ी कमी है। वो आने वाले समय में मुझे भरोसा है कि सरकार सोचेगी। और ये बात सही है कि कंकरेंट लिस्ट में एजुकेशन है, स्टेट को भी करना है। हमारा स्टेट, मैं जानता हूं कि शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में आगे काम करना चाहता है और कर रहा है। आप हमारे ही प्रदेश में हैं,
बिल्कुल है।
इसलिए आप जानते हैं
काफी काम हुआ है
जी। थैंक यू।
Dushyant, you are the youngest, and you have the distinction of being the youngest parliamentarian as well as the member of the Skill Development Committee. So it would be fair to say that you represent in some sense the voice of the absolutely young people in this country. One of the things that has been observed is that young people are losing faith. They are losing faith that even after they get out of school, they get a degree, there are no jobs available for them. And the issue with skill development in India has been that it's a band-aid approach. You have a scheme of the government, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. In 3 months, you want to give him a skill that will get him a job. It's practically not possible. So therefore, you are doing the skilling, still people are not able to get a job. But you rightly said that we need to do this at a more grassroots level, which needs more funding, it needs policy change. But we don't have time. We have so many young people. India is the youngest nation in the entire world. So do you think we are heading towards a major social problem when there are lakhs of people, millions I would say, with degrees and no jobs? How will we deal with this problem?
Once we start talking about how to deal, I think midday meal is the biggest problem our country is facing. I'll tell you one aspect. In 1977, when Chaudhry Devlal became the Chief Minister of Haryana, he started giving 1 rupee to a student to go to school. And the turnout rate of students increased. But now parents are forcing kids to just jump into school because they don't have to cook the lunch for the students. I think on that end, there are areas. I won't debate. Haryana doesn't need that huge a budget for midday meal as Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh, the tribal areas need. We need to focus there also. But when we start talking about discussion on how skills have to be embedded, children at the age, as before me it was discussed that Master Bhagati wanted to learn that course, but he could not because there is no course like this. We have to have institutions, even schools, with specialized courses that can teach kids at the age of class 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 the courses they want to. As we talk about universities coming up as Harvard or Oxford into India, they won't succeed. Our infrastructure and our society is totally different. Our country being hugely populated and divided into 30 states, I think there needs to be education policy for each and every state separately to deal with the local. In a state like Uttar Pradesh, the regions have to be divided into 3 different parts because eastern Uttar Pradesh cannot be similar to western Uttar Pradesh. So I think there has to be a policy that specifies the area. And once we start doing that, with the money and resource we are putting into other factors, I think we'll succeed, and that should be the main focus of the government.
Thank you, Dushyant. I think it's a good time to ask for questions from our audience. But before I go there, a question that was coming in my mind. If I were to ask you, if you were the Minister for HRD, if you can tell in 10 seconds, what is that one big thing that you would launch? So imagine you are the Minister for HRD, you have been appointed today, and in one sentence, what is the big change or the big plan that you will launch? Kalikesh.
Change the manner in which we look at education to be more education friendly. I'll give you 1 or 2 examples. We are making toilets, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. We are not giving water. The HRD minister should use the toilet at the end of the day to get a feel of how it is for the kids. District Innovation Fund for education, for improving the quality of education. If you spend less than 60%, it is stricture on your report card. If you spend more than 70%, it's assumed that you're corrupt. It's ridiculous. We in our own policies are stymieing the way education is coming about. We need to have a complete overhaul, as you said, and we need to make sure that the education is suited for the child and not the way it is taught right now.
Thank you.
I'll just stick by the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan and right to education and try and figure out where the bottlenecks are and what the problems that lie so that it can be further better. But I believe strongly that's the only way forward, where you have inclusive growth and education model where everyone is brought on board, and especially you're catering to those people who have not got access and that privilege to good quality education. So things like more focus on infrastructure and less on quality, we could debate that. Things like why there are dropout rates and why is the girl child not being in the same level as the boys, those could be thought about. EWS, where the problems lie in that could be sorted out. Fees and regulation and over-regulation, that could be debated. But you need to look at that regulation is very important, being a sensitive subject and a subject where you're playing with people's mind and the country's future. We've had instances where people are going for excess profiteering. We've had areas where, especially in higher education, where certain subjects have become more lucrative, and then you see the whole generation going there. but after some time the cycle takes a different turn and you see excess capacity. And then I've seen it in dental, I've seen it in some other courses as well. So you can't have that model where you will have a problem later. So a certain bit of regulation is important. Foreign universities and education is also could be debated, but that also is very sensitive, and the Parliament has not been agreeable, and one reason is because half the educational institutions that run in India today are of MPs. So they don't want to have any competition. But that's not the only reason. It's a very sensitive matter. Education is not for profit in India. You can't have people coming in here spending millions of money and not being able to profit out of it. So that is that you won't have foreign universities coming into India. Research and why India does not go into the top rankings of any university or school. Because we believe in inclusive growth, we have a reservation model where it is the government's primary concern to ensure the underprivileged do get reservation and a seat on that classroom or on that course because of the disadvantaged position he had been. That doesn't happen abroad. So research and other parameters of qualifying for a ranking come later. The responsibility of the government to ensure that every child in this country is educated at par with everybody comes first. And that's what I would want to do.
Thanks, Jitin. Anurag, one line if you were Minister of Education.
I think we should focus more on reading, writing and speaking skills. At the same time, when we say about skill education, I think it's very important that we must involve our industry into that. Every small or big industry should become the member of chambers, and the chambers must decide with the HRD ministry what should be the curriculum, so that the students who will pass out should have practical training in the industry as well as during the course of their education. So once they pass out, they are directly employed by the industry. I think that is very, very important. We should get industry on board along with the educationists to get them on the same line so that we have more and more employable youth. और कुछ तो नहीं बोलना।
नीरज जी,
नहीं आप
think you नीरज जी, मैं आप शिक्षा मंत्री हो।
मैं 10 सेकंड ही लूंगा। मैं इतनी बड़ी बात नहीं कर सकता जो ये लोग कह रहे हैं, ये बहुत आगे चल रहे हैं। सबसे बड़ी जरूरत आज अच्छे शिक्षकों की है। टीचर्स जब तक नहीं होंगे, आप जाके प्राथमिक विद्यालय तो देखिए किसी गांव का। और दूसरा पॉइंट, गर्ल चाइल्ड एजुकेशन। सबसे ज्यादा ड्रॉप आउट उसमें होती हैं। अगर इन दो चीजों पे हम ध्यान नहीं देंगे तो शिक्षा में आगे बढ़ना, अभी भी हम लोग कितने लोग बच्चियां पढ़ नहीं रही हैं, और जिनमें क्षमता है पढ़ने की, मेरे लिए दो सबसे जरूरी चीजें हैं।
मुझे लगता है जो गर्ल चाइल्ड की बार बार बात आती है, इफ यू गो टू द स्कूल्स when the meritorious students are awarded, you will find 70% of the students who are awarded are girls. 70% मैं हरियाणा के स्कूल से लेके महाराष्ट्र से लेके हिमाचल तक किसी स्कूल में गया हूँ देश भर में, वहाँ पर लड़कियां 70% उनको अवार्ड दिया जाता है, लड़कों को नहीं।
The girls who are there are doing very well. Yushen ji, one line. We are running out of time actually.
If I have to say, I'll say we have to focus on research and the skill we put it into the children. I think जो जब से auto correct आया है ना, the skills in our country have gone down. So we have to focus on getting the reading and writing skills, as Anurag Thakur said. And I think once we focus on it, our country will be on the right track.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we have completely run out of time. But
Prashant sir, I have one point here.
One question we'll take last.
And I would support Anurag ji. Here also, more female principals are sitting.
Okay, we'll take one last question because we have completely run out of time and we have to go to the next one.
It's a huge responsibility. I think we have a lot of problems right from the primary school level. No proper infrastructure, lack of teachers, lack of skilled teachers. Okay, employment, everything. Primary education I have a very, very small idea. This is a takeoff from what happened in Chennai, the
You
floods.
are asking a question or you are reading a
I'm
speech?
just a small suggestion giving you. Can there be each one teach one kind of a program across the country, where even a family adopts a child, maybe a maid servant child or a driver's child, educate, give the primary education. I think a lot of problems regarding the teachers already at the primary level can be solved. Can there be a movement like this when the society take up this kind of a cause?
I think many organizations are doing that and more people should do that. I have a question to the audience. Suppose if you buy expensive lands to build schools and at the same time we've been forced to have 25% school students from the economic weaker section, and after 6th pay commission there will be 7th pay commission. Wait, after 6th there is going to be 7th pay commission because we have seen the challenge the school faced after the 6th pay commission. So is that a viable option to run educational institutes?
Show of hands. Those who believe it is not viable can raise their hands. I think there's an overwhelming majority. The audience poll, more than 90% feel it's not viable.
So Shantanu, I have a question unrelated to education to all the MPs. Who's forming the government in UP in 2017, according to all of you?
I should be the only one allowed to speak because they all have vested interests. It's the voters become very smart. You've seen the dichotomy in voting between Lok Sabha, Delhi, Bihar, even the other states which went to BJP. It's going to pick out the party, and I believe in an absolute majority in UP again, but pick out the party which believes the highest amount of hope lies on.
Which is that party?
Of course, the Congress.
मैं ये नहीं कहता, मैं बार बार हम लोग ये कहते हैं सारे राजनीतिक वोटर बड़ा स्मार्ट हो गया है. I have ऑब्जेक्शन टू दैट स्टेटमेंट. लेकिन हर पार्टी चाहेगी कि उसकी पार्टी आए, और लेकिन एक बात से मैं सहमत हूं, जो भी आए एब्सोल्यूट मेजॉरिटी आए, कि वो रिस्पॉन्सिबल रहे कि क्या उसने काम किया कि नहीं किया. आज हम लोग केंद्र में सरकार है, उस पर कम से कम उंगली तो उठा सकते हैं कि आपने 18 महीने में कुछ नहीं किया.
इन सबको सरकार यही बनाने तो हम उत्तर प्रदेश में बनाएंगे.
May I now request Shantanu sir to felicitate our eminent guests. Can you please give them a huge round of applause? I would request you all, sir, to give us a few more minutes. Singh Wilk. Can we give him a huge round of applause, please? Shishir sir, can we please have you on the stage?